Hey, welcome! Today, we are going on one of the most incredible adventures our planet has to offer. We're going to follow the journey of a single drop of water. Let's dive into the amazing science of the water cycle.
Have you ever really stopped and thought about it? Where does rain actually come from? And how do those massive, fluffy clouds just appear in the sky? These might sound like simple questions, but they point to a huge, powerful system that literally keeps our world running. So let's break it all down. So the first thing you've got to know is that this isn't some one-and-done trip. For a tiny drop of water, it's a never-ending journey. It's a constant loop that has been going on for, well, billions of years. You can think of it as nature's most perfect recycling program.
This entire adventure really unfolds in four main stages. It kicks off with a great escape into the sky, which we call evaporation. Then it leads to cloud making through condensation. Next, it comes back down to Earth as precipitation. And finally, it all gets gathered back together in a step called collection. Let's start with stage one. Okay, so our story begins in a huge ocean. Imagine countless tiny water molecules just waiting for their moment. They're about to start the very first leg of their trip, and it all starts with a great escape right from the surface.
And that first stage is called evaporation. So the sun beats down, and its energy heats up the surface of oceans, rivers, you name it. That heat gets the water molecules all energized and excited, so much so that they can break free and change from a liquid into a totally invisible gas called water vapor.
It's almost like the water suddenly becomes lighter than air. This vapor just starts rising, floating up, 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 leaving the big ocean behind as it heads high into the atmosphere.
Now, as all this water vapor travels higher and higher, things start to get a little chilly. And that drop in temperature, that's the trigger for the next amazing part of the journey, where all these individual, invisible molecules start to get together for a massive party.
And this is condensation. As that water vapor rises into the cooler air, it loses its energy and switches back from a gas into teeny tiny liquid water droplets. And when millions or even billions of these little droplets get together and hang out, they become visible to us down here on the ground.
And that right there is what a cloud is. It's not just some piece of fluff, it's a massive, visible cluster of countless tiny water droplets, all just floating in the air. Get this, a single one of those big puffy clouds can hold hundreds of tons of water. Incredible, right?
But, this party in the sky can't go on forever. As more and more droplets join in, the cloud just gets heavier and denser, and it eventually hits a tipping point. And that brings us to the next stage, the journey back home to Earth. We call this downward trip precipitation. And the important thing to remember is, it's not always rain. Depending on how cold it is up there, this water can come back down as snow, sleet, or even chunks of ice we call hail.
The best way to picture this is to think of a sponge. You know how when a sponge gets totally full of water, it just starts to drip everywhere? A cloud works the exact same way. It gets so packed and heavy with water droplets that it literally can't hold on to them anymore. They just have to be released.
So, once the water's back on the ground, you might think the journey's over. But nope, not quite. The final stage is all about getting all this water rounded up again, ready to start the whole cycle from the beginning.
And this last step is called collection. The water that's fallen flows across the land, gathering in little streams which flow into rivers, which flow into lakes. A whole lot of it eventually makes its way right back into the massive oceans, exactly where our little droplets' journey began.
And once that water is back in the ocean, the whole system is ready to go again. The sun comes out, the water heats up, and the adventure is on. It's just a perfect non-stop loop that keeps our planet alive.
So let's just recap that whole amazing system. The sun's energy kicks off evaporation, turning liquid water into gas. Then, as it gets cold, condensation forms clouds. Gravity takes over and pulls that water back down as precipitation. And finally, collection gathers it all up, ready for the cycle to start again. 4 simple steps in one giant planetary engine. When you really stop and think about it, it's absolutely incredible. The very same water that's on Earth today has been going through this exact cycle for millions, even billions of years. It's nature's perfect system for cleaning and reusing its most important resource.
And that kind of leaves us with one last pretty cool thought. Our little water drop is back in the ocean, all set for its next big adventure. So, where do you think it'll go next? Will it fall as snow on some faraway mountain? Will it help water crops in a farmer's field? Or maybe flow through a huge city? For every single drop, the adventure is truly never over.